Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers Podcast. There they are, the Sports Writers, Bill Stacy, Nick Kukru, Matt Williams, and Nick Giannino. Great to have you guys all back with us again this week. First full week of summer 2022. And let's just begin with Nick Kukru up there in Gloucester. And Nick, we've got the Fiesta in the books. And what a beautiful weekend you guys had for the Fiesta.
Yeah, lucky. It actually got real comfortable yesterday too. Right before everything started, it was pretty sweltering in the early afternoon, but down on the water was nice. Yeah, it was first St. Peter's Fiesta since 2019. I thought it was a pretty good one. Very good one actually. We had some good stories on the greasy pole. Friday, we had Leo Canavo, who has been walking for 20 years, and won on his 37th birthday, which was very interesting. And then on Saturday, we had Anthony Novello, who's been walking for 16 years. He won as the first Novello to ever win a greasy pole. That's a real common Gloucester name. They're heavily involved in the Fiesta festivities. And so he was the first one from his family to win. And then on Sunday, Derek Hopkins, who everyone expected to win. He won all three competitions in 2019, and he won as the second walker in the second round on Sunday as well. So yeah, he looks to be on his way to being one of the all-time best. He's only walked the pole 4 times, and he's won all 4 times, and all 4 have been in the second round, which is the first round you can win. You can't win in the first round. It's the courtesy round. So he's made it to the end in the courtesy round every time too. Has just jumped off and not taken the flag down. So he's a natural. His dad was a 2-time champ in the mid 90s, and he looks to be even better than him. He makes it look easy, actually. I've never seen him fall, and that wasn't intentional.
What does he attribute that to? Something about his feet, Nick? What is it?
He's pretty long. He's about 6 feet long. I guess he just has good balance. Usually you see typically the walkers, they either have really big feet and they can go slower, or you see these little quick guys that can really, jump out there. And he's kind of in between that. But he just has great balance, and, it doesn't matter if it's slick, or he can trudge through the thick stuff pretty easily. And he's pretty flawless. Then we had the same boat races as well, which were also interesting. Backlash won the women's race on Friday. They're second in a row. They looked really good. They won going away by about 3 boats. And then the men's race, Paul Gigoloni's crew, ZFG they were called, they lost on Saturday, came in second by a large amount, and then came back and won handily on Sunday. So you almost never see the crew that loses on Saturday come back and win on Sunday, but they pulled it off. I guess they changed their stroke up completely, much shorter, quicker stroke. They had a longer stroke on Saturday, and they didn't realize it wasn't good until they saw it in a race. So they changed it up, and they won pretty handily. So it was impressive stuff all around.
Great inside stuff right there, folks. There you go. We got it. All right.
Yeah, break down a sailboat race with the best of them.
What are the crowds like, Nick, anyway?
Yeah, I was curious about that too.
They were huge. Saturdays in particular, I thought was the biggest, both out on the water and on the beach. But there were thousands of people down there every day.
Nice.
It was low tide, luckily, so you could actually stand. If it's high tide, it gets tough.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's good news. All right. So that's the Fiesta. It's in the books for 2022. Aganis All-Star games are underway. They had softball, baseball. We are recording this on Monday afternoon, as it turns out. Basketball scheduled for Monday night, and then I'm sorry. What do we have on Tuesday? It's baseball. No. It's lacrosse. Lacrosse. Okay. No, it's not lacrosse. Soccer. Oh man, I had it in my head. I said I'm not going to forget this. I don't even need to write that down. And then, of course, the football game on Wednesday night. So it's soccer on Tuesday night. I'm sorry. Okay. Willie, I know you covered some baseball, right?
It was a good game. I was actually really surprised at the number of teams that were not represented. That was an eye-opener, and I just think shame on anybody that didn't get some nominations in. I'm not going to call out anybody by name or anything, but people can just look at the book and see some of the big heavy hitting teams that were missing. And I don't know what happened, if the call for nominations went out late, or if the kids were declined to take part, or some mix of all of those circumstances. But that was a shame to see. And the guys that didn't want to be involved missed a great game. It ended up being 7-5. For me, getting to see some players from some of the other areas that I don't always see, Lynn Classical and English, now that they're out of the league, the GBL MVP had a couple of hits from Classical and stuff, and ended up being a great game. I just, it was discouraging that some of the heavy hitters, weren't out there, but the guys that did come showed out. Mike Krause from Peabody had a great game, went 4 for 4, stole 4 bases, scored a couple of runs. Justin Powers, the pitcher, hit 4th. I said to him, "You haven't hit cleanup since districts in Little League," of course, which are starting up this week for the current 12-year-olds. So it was a fun event, and it sounded like the softball was more of the same. A 9-9 game, ended in a tie, a lot of runs scored, and a lot of fun had over there. So it's a great cause. It's good takes. I'm sure that the soccer games will be good on Tuesday. I'm sure that the hoop games on Monday night will be good. Nick's going to go check those out tonight. And, pick up basketball is always fun. I don't care who's playing. And, of course, we'd be remiss not to say that the crown jewel is the football game. We all know that. That's always the one that does bring out the best players and the great players, and is never a disappointment. And certainly looking forward to seeing some football on Wednesday night. It's really one of the best events on the calendar that I certainly look forward to every year. And I don't know if the interest level is just because they took the year off. Maybe it takes a minute to recover. Phil and I have discussed this many times. I think there was maybe a little bit more interest when the games were in mid-July. They've moved them to the last week of June here for vacation plans. They were worried they were missing kids on vacation, but it seems like maybe it is too close to graduation and kids need a break. So I don't know, or maybe it's just the passage of time, things change, whatever. But, it would be nice to see big crowds over there for the next 3 days of action at the Classical, for the hoop, and of course at Manning Field for the soccer and the football.
I can go so far back as I remember the football game when there was just the football game, and it was in August, the middle of August. Maybe the second week, the 10th, 13th, 14th, those kind of dates stick in my head. And of course, they kept creeping it back. And then you had the colleges, kids having to go away to college, so they kept creeping it, into July, and then now into June with all the other sports that they now have with the Aganis games, classics. That's great. So yeah, it was a major event back many years ago, the football game, kind of a precursor to the following high school season, several weeks away, basically. Yeah.
Do you think, and Willie and I talked about this a little bit yesterday between ourselves, but do you think that this is just a byproduct of, life in 2022, that maybe people don't have that same sense of history? They don't feel that same sense of, geez, I was picked. That's an honor. I should really, go and honor this commitment that I've been, or honor this accolade that I've been given. I mean, maybe it's just not as important. And I'm not saying that's right or not, but I think whereas for a long time, it was an honor to be chosen for this, and kids clamored to be part of it. I just don't get that sense anymore that that's the case.
I would bet, though, I mean, if you were to talk to any of the football players, let's say on Wednesday night, I mean, and I would say that then that would mirror the other sports as well. The ones that are participating are very honored to participate, but your question begs those other people that aren't a part of it. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that it is a matter of, it is a function of where we are at right now. And through the years, we learn, people are less and less aware probably of Harry Aganis.
Yeah, which in itself is sad.
Yes. Right.
Very much so. Just because something happened many, many years before you were born, or your parents were born, or, whatever, doesn't mean that the history doesn't still carry on and ring true. And hey, I'm sure the players that are there for the various sports, they're there, they want to be there, and they want to win and compete and have fun and, get a chance to meet some kids from other teams they might not know and all. It is sad, though, going back to Willie's original point that not all of, and I'm saying this selfishly from our point of view here, not all the schools in our area are nominated, so you don't get to see the best of who we covered during the course of the year. Hey, I think the football game will be great. I hope that the 2 basketball games tonight and the 2 soccer games Tuesday night will be as well. But when I hear that say, and I'm sure Harry Ganis wouldn't know a lacrosse stick from a peppermint stick, I'm guessing. But, when I hear that at the boys lacrosse game, it was 7-on-7 because there weren't enough players. I mean, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know.
Well,
It's too bad because it's for a great cause too.
Right.
I gotta be careful what I say here because I don't want to get in trouble, but I guess I'll put it nicely. Like, I think Phil hit the nail on the head when he's talking about the football, and it's the coaches. It's the respect for the coaches. Because football coaches are imparting on their players how important this is. They're telling them stories about it, and it means something. And when a football coach talks like that, you listen and it gets somewhere, and I look at other coaches in other sports that used to be that way. And if the coaches in the sports, those other sports aren't sending that message and they're not getting that message from their ADs, then I guess I would just say shame on them, and they're missing out. And I just look at these rosters for football. I'm looking at Bobby Cerrito's North team here and the number of guys from the Northeast Conference and the surrounding prep schools, parochial schools, prep, Fenwick, Hamilton Wenham. There are guys on this roster that played in the Shriners game that said, I don't need time off. I want to play in the Aganis game because it's important to me because it matters. And I would say, whatever the football coaches are saying to their teams to impart this stuff, put it in a bottle and try to give it to everybody else. And if you're a coach of another sport, not sending that message, you got to look in the mirror and ask yourself, how come my peers on the pigskin can send that message and I can't, right? That's really, again, I got to be careful. I don't want anybody to get upset with us or whatever, but that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Well, how much of that is maybe a combination of like kids who are going to play whatever sport in college? They're already on the college program, the off-season training program, whether it's football or soccer or basketball. And especially if they have any kind of scholarship, they can't deviate from that training because if they were to get hurt doing something that wasn't sanctioned by the college or whatever, would that put their scholarship at risk, or would that put their playing time at risk? And do the colleges not want their incoming athletes to play these kind of all-star games for that very reason? That could be something. I think another part of it too is that, some kids might feel, or even coaches and athletic directors, and certainly this is not all of them, but maybe some do feel like, hey, you know what, I had a long senior year, I finished my sports, I'm graduated, I went to the prom, I did all the senior week activities. I want a couple of months to myself here before I go off to college. Who knows? I could be, throwing spit into the wind here with these theories, but I really don't know why deserving athletes don't want to take part in these games when I'm sure that there are those who aren't picked that would love to play in it and aren't afforded that opportunity. So 2 theories, who knows if either of them are true or not. What do you guys think?
Phil, I do know as a fact that I believe that a number of years ago that they, the college coaches were discouraging their players for just that reason that you're referring to. So that has to be one of the factors for some kids in some
it makes
programs.
sense, right?
Yeah. It only makes sense. Right.
I think it happens rarely. I can think of some really, really high level players that played in these games, so maybe it's a leverage thing. If you feel like you're that good, you can tell the college I'm playing anyway. I don't know. I think it's a case by case, certainly. But I think when you look from 10,000 feet, if a potential draft pick doesn't play in the game, you can understand that. But if that team that draft pick plays for. Well, there's no other senior on that team that could have played. Then you think, well, maybe the coach didn't get back to the against people is what really happened, you know?
It's
I
it's
know
not
a
like
some-
it's not like Tom Brady not going to the Pro Bowl. I mean, I don't think it's not that bad. You know what I'm
Kinda,
saying?
yeah.
But I do know. Here's just a little fact before Nick, you chime in here. But back 40 years ago, back when I first started covering the game, it was a North-South game. So
Yeah.
it was a greater Boston attraction. I think it was on Boston television at one point, albeit Channel 56 at the time. I think many years ago, maybe even before my time, a few times they had it on TV. But they had the best players from the South Shore, North Shore. So now it is basically a North Shore game, but it was a North-South kind of game for a number of years. I'm sorry, Nick.
No, all good. No, I know of some kids who, going on to play college higher than the Division III level, not Division III, 2 or 1 AA. Their college programs had told them if they had been nominated for 2 All-Star games, they got to pick one. This is specifically football I'm talking, and those kids picked the Shriners game over the Aganis game. I know of multiple instances of that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a factor now still too, I'm assuming.
Well, there you go. There's our Aganis conversation. But again, as we record this on Tuesday, on Monday, rather, excuse me, the basketball is Monday night, soccer at Manning Field on Tuesday, and then of course the football game that we're referring to on Wednesday night at Manning Field. So get out and support the Aganis Foundation and of course these North Shore student athletes. Gentlemen, let's do a little recap or a couple of notes from the 21-22 high school season. And again, these are not the headlines that you might necessarily put at the end of the year story, the recap of the top sports, top performances or whatever. But maybe Nick Giannino, I'll start with you. What kind of stands out? Maybe a unique thing for this season, a sport. Sometimes it can be the drive, the actual, so-called pennant races or divisional races. Sometimes it's an underdog kind of performance. So it could be a game. So what kind of stands out to you this past school year?
Well, I was on the girls lacrosse beat, obviously this year, covered a few other sports as well, but mostly girls lacrosse. And we didn't have any teams that made a real deep run. Masco getting to the Elite Eight in Division II was pretty impressive. They ran into a tough Notre Dame of Hingham team that ended up winning it all. But in terms of postseason runs for our squads this year, they were few and far between. But I think one of the most impressive things, and we probably touched upon it a few times in this podcast throughout the spring, but on the girls lacrosse side, we had 3 different girls score at least 100 goals, which, Phil and Willie, I'm not sure looking back further since before I was with the News that's ever happened. But since I've been here, it's rare that we even have one individual go over 100 goals. I mean, to have 3 do that was
Not 3 that I can remember, maybe 2 once, but not 3 that I can recall.
Maybe
Yeah,
for 100 points, definitely not for 100 goals.
exactly points for sure. But no, this is strictly goals. So we had Haley Hamilton, a senior from Hamilton Wenham, did it first. Incredible year for her. Going to be going off to Middlebury next year.
And
Then
she
we
was
had,
just named MVP for the Aganis game, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, well deserved. She realistically probably averaged 7 or 8 goals a game, which is pretty unheard of. I'd have to do the math, but somewhere around there. And Hamilton had a picked up a tournament win. So shout out to her. And then at Essex Tech, we had Maddie Mcdonald go for 100 as well. She'll be back. She was only a junior this year, I believe. So she'll be back for another season at Essex Tech. And then the last one was from Masco, who had that deep run before running into the really good Notre Dame team. Emmy Clark, also a junior, so she'll be back for another season. And she surpassed the 100 goal mark for the season in a playoff game against Scituate, I believe. So to have 3, again, go over the century mark like that, like Willie alluded to, not just for points, but for strictly goals is pretty incredible. And I think that's something that probably be talking about for a while now, because I don't think that's going to be done anytime soon.
But it might be, I mean, right? Because Clark and McDonald are both back, right?
They're both back, but Haley's not. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
okay,
think of
so
maybe
let's say
some other
Brooke
candidates.
Masney gets 100. How many do you have this year? 80 something?
Who's this?
Brooke?
Yeah, she had like 70 something goals, I believe.
I mean, let's say she chucks up to 100. That's 3 right there. We
Yeah.
already got it, you know?
Yeah,
Plus,
true.
Marblehead's got some nice young players. So, I mean, if you got 2 back, and I guess you can't assume somebody that scored 100 this year is going to do it again next year, right? But I
Right.
mean, it could happen. 2 of them are coming back already. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild. I think we've learned that, you know, in the postseason, it takes a full team effort. A lot of these teams in the playoffs have deep benches, and, you know, that's ultimately why some of our teams came up short. That there's some great individual talent, but, you know, some of these teams match up well enough against the real competitive ones that are winning the championships. But that's neither here nor there. Regardless, you know, to have 3 individual seasons like that again is just incredible.
Phil, you want to take the next stab at one of these things?
Yeah, you want it specifically to be in the spring season? Or
No,
can be
no, I
for
I didn't mean that. It could be any season. Yeah.
I'll tell you a game that stands out for me, and it wasn't a championship game. It wasn't, you know, anything that won or lost a division or anything like that, but it was a standout game for me personally. It was Swampscott Beverly football, Saturday afternoon at Hurd Stadium. And I think it was you know, Swampscott was undefeated. Beverly was 3-3, but you know, realistically, they probably could have been 5-1. So it was a pretty big game. And Swampscott was without their starting quarterback and one of their best linebackers, Cam O'Brien, the game before against Danvers. He had been called for, I don't know if it was spearing or hitting to the head or, you know, on a hit, which meant an automatic ejection next game. I guess that's the Federation rules. But in any case, Swampscott had to go into Beverly and play without their starting quarterback and probably their best linebacker, or one of their best linebackers. So Zach Ryan steps in at quarterback. And I think everybody there who knew anything about either team knew that Swampscott was going to have to just pound the football, control the ball. They weren't going to take any unnecessary chances throwing the ball. So they just rode their big back, Xavier Bascon, who had a monster season for them. Grinded it out, played great defense, had some big stops, but Beverly kept coming. It was 13-12 late in the game. Beverly had the ball deep in Swampscott territory. They go for a field goal on the last play of the game, and who blocks it but Xavier Bascon. So he finished with, I think it was like 149 yards rushing. He had a pair of touchdowns. He blocked a potential game-winning field goal, and his team wins 13-12 to stay unbeaten. Of course, Swampscott does go on to win their second straight Super Bowl. And again, Beverly was no worse for the wear. They went out the next week and they beat Gloucester. What was it, 50-0, Nick, or 56-0 or something like that?
Yeah, 50.
Yeah,
Nothing.
you're right. It
No,
was
they don't.
50 on a rainy Saturday, halfway through the second quarter. And then it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about scoring anymore. Yeah, but that game just really stuck out to me because it showed what a great player Bascon was and how he came up big when the times were biggest, especially minus a quarterback there. So, again, tons of awesome games this year. Football, field hockey, boys lacrosse. I mean, I've been to a lot of them. But that one, that stands out to me as one, like I said, that wasn't a Super Bowl. It wasn't a championship, wasn't for a championship, but it was just a game where you expected, like, oh, this could be a decent game. And it turns out to be great.
Yeah. And the big play, a big defensive play from a guy that is just known for getting it done offensively, but also is a great two-way player as well, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things to me that is so great about high school football is that, you know, there may be at St. John's Prep, they can afford, they have the depth, I should say, where they can use a lot of players on one side of the ball only. A lot of schools can't do that around here. And so guys do end up going two ways. And, you know, somebody that you might think of as an offensive star in a skill position can come up with a huge interception or a blocked kick, like in the case of Bascon here. that's one of the things I love about high school football, and we saw it in display that day in October.
Nick Kukuru, how about yourself here?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a team that, they kind of got lost in the shuffle this year a bit, admittedly, with, Gloucester hockey kind of stealing a lot of their headlines. But Gloucester Wrestling had a banner season this year. They had never had an NEC Cal champ heading into this season, and they got 4 this year. Jackson Cody, an 8th grader, twin brothers Jaden and Mike Toppin, and senior captain Daniel Beaton all took down the Cal NEC titles. And then Mike Toppin and Beaton won Division III North, and with Beaton winning Division III State. So they had a real banner season. Beaton picked up 100 wins for his career as well this season. And the Toppin boys are only sophomores as well, and they're just powerhouses. Jaden wrestles at 220. He had a kid from Burlington ahead of him that kind of gave him a little trouble in the States, but he was undefeated in the dual meet season. And then Mike, won the Division III North sectionals at 195, and those two look like they're future state champs coming up. But yeah, I mean, a real banner year for them. They also had a couple girls do well. The inaugural girls individual tournament, Morgan Penimpede placed for them. So they really kind of established something. They're still a fairly new program, not even a decade in, just under a decade in, and really now starting to see that consistency of a program that's been around long enough to build a culture.
Nice, good stuff. Matt Williams.
It's tough to say. I mean, we've had so many nice games. I think, Phil's talking football. I mean, I keep thinking of that Super Bowl and what Connor Cronin did for Marblehead, all those catches. What was it? 10 catches for 130 something yards,
I think it was like 10 for 263, wasn't it?
I don't know, two long touchdowns,
Yeah, he had like an 80-yard and a 75-yard, I think.
That's for sure. 10 grabs, 267 and 3 touchdowns. So I saw on the Twitterverse the other day, he picked up his first quote unquote Division I offer from Stonehill. They've been Division I for about 10 minutes. And I feel like every other day there's like some kid that I've never heard of tweeting out that he's got a Division I offer from some school or another. So someday somebody's gonna have to explain to me why Connor Cronin doesn't have a backpack full of Division I offers if some of these guys out there do. I don't know. With his grades, your Ivy League teams, your CAA teams in New England, Holy Cross. I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we waiting for? That seems to be a little bit crazy to me. That really took me aback when I saw it on Saturday or Sunday. Like, wait a minute, first offer? Like, where's everybody else for this kid? Because he's pretty good. I don't know if we've gotten the word out there. I think we have. I think a lot of people that read the Salem News would be saying, "Oh, this kid again, we're writing about him again." But I guess the word's not getting out to the colleges for one reason or another.
My thought when that, Willie, might be that I don't want to say it's fairly well known, but I think it's known to people that he is maybe looking at an Ivy League track. So that could be a reason. I mean, and those aren't scholarship-based schools per se, but I think with his grades and his football ability, he's looking Ivy. I'm hearing Brown, I'm hearing Harvard, I'm hearing possibly Dartmouth. So that could be some of the reasons why, or maybe he's even looking at like a Patriot League school, Holy Cross or something like that.
I mean, I think we've seen some people that aren't in his class tweet out, "Oh, I got a letter from those schools. I got an offer from those schools." And I know that you use the word offer colloquially, like you said, they don't actually have scholarships, right? So it's kind of just a vernacular that the kids use on Twitter today, right? But geez, I mean, not that my opinion is basically $1.50, in my opinion, will get you a Coke in the Coke machine. But I mean, anybody that takes that kid's not going to regret it, for sure.
Very true. Very true.
All right, let's move on from vending machines to let's see here. Why don't I just leave this as an open-ended thing for you guys here? So we're into summer. School's out for summer, so to speak. Any other thoughts from you guys? It doesn't have to be on the local sports scene, or do you want to weigh on anything in the next 3 or 4 minutes here that we have? Hockey?
Well, we have the annual Williamsport tournaments are back for the Little League. I mean, I know we had them last year. I think like everything else last summer, it seemed a little bit stunted as we got back into so-called regular life, but it seems to be back in full bloom, so to speak, this summer. We've had some District 16 games with Peabody and Peabody West played. I think we'll see Salem and Swampscott Little League All-Stars starting up this week. I know District 15 starts, supposed to start tonight. So with everybody having the dream of going to Williamsport, it's got to start somewhere, and that means it starts on the district level for us. So get out and support these kids at District 15 and 16, and you can read about them in the Salem News and the Gloucester Times.
Nick Kukuru, Nick Giannino, Matt Williams, any other parting shots here?
I just want to shout out the Avalanche for winning the Stanley Cup Sunday night. 6 games over the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? You know, the 2-time defending champs. What a wagon! 16-4 in the playoffs I saw, and you know they were a favorite all season long, but nobody counted out the Lightning obviously to winning 2 in a row. So I don't know, Phil. What's your take on the Avalanche? Pretty awesome stuff for them.
Oh yeah, I mean they were a wagon. They were the best team in the league all year. I mean, I think it's rare in hockey where you see the best team win. It's so hard to get to those 16 wins, and there are upsets and injuries, and guys get hot for no reason or go cold. But Colorado, despite what I would say would probably be so-so goaltending, they got it done with so much star power up front, and especially Conn Smythe won at Cale Makar on defense. I think Tampa Bay was just worn out. Not that Colorado wasn't a better team, but I'm not a Lightning fan, but I give them credit for extending it to 6 games, and the best team won. So yeah, did you pick Colorado to win the Cup?
You bet I did. 6
I
games
was
on the
gonna
Lightning.
say, I'm like, why are you crowing about the Stanley Cup?
I nailed it.
Did you? You had them beat Tampa Bay in 6?
I'm pretty sure. I have to look back, but
Wow.
I believe him, Phil. I would believe him.
Considering he couldn't name 5 players in the National Hockey League, I don't know if I'd necessarily believe him on that, but we'll take your word for it, Nino.
sometimes it's easier when you don't know about.
Well, at least here in Boston, everybody seems to be happy that they've re-signed Don Sweeney to a multi-year contract. That's,
Nick loves the color of their uniforms. I think, isn't that it, Nick?
That's
Is
it.
the color?
That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, give us a little Bergeron take there, Phil. Do you think it's a little strange that he's back now that they fired the coach? I mean, what do we do? We have to start calling him LeBron Bergeron now, or what? My spidey sense is a little tingling on that. The timing's a little strange.
Just a 1-year deal, though, right?
They haven't announced it officially yet. Yeah, there was another hockey Krishna who asked me essentially the same thing, Willie. I mean, it looks suspicious, to be honest with you, or otherwise it's awfully coincidental. I mean, I think Bergeron is a company guy, and maybe he felt like leaving now would leave them in a real mess, considering they don't even have a number 2 center. So if he left, they wouldn't even have a number 1. And maybe he feels like there's some unfinished business. Maybe he feels like between surgery for him and Brad Marchand and Charlie McAvoy and Matt Grzelcyk, like those guys will be, their bodies won't be beat up by the time the playoffs come around, assuming they make the playoffs. I mean, which is no given, I suppose. But maybe he feels like, hey, I got one more go in me. I can go 55 regular season games or whatever and go from there. I mean, I'd like to think that, but then again, who knows? I mean, as you said, the spidey sense does tingle when the coach that's supposedly, graded on players in the room is let go, and then your captain announces or it's leaked that he's coming back less than a week later.
I mean, and the thing for me that I never understood is like, and I guess they're going to put him in the Hall of Fame anyway, but if you look at Mr. Bergeron's offensive numbers, which is how you make your money, and his offensive zone faceoffs versus defensive zone faceoffs under the previous coach versus this coach, I think this coach made Patrice Bergeron and his friends a lot of money by actually using them as an offensive line.
Oh, no question.
And, you know, the payback. So I don't really understand why they don't like the guy. I mean, you know, his kids get to inherit extra millions of dollars because Bruce Cassidy said, you don't have to take every single defensive zone faceoff. So, you know, call me crazy, but I feel like I'm missing something there.
No, I mean, when you look at it pragmatically like that, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe he wasn't involved in that grumbling, or maybe he had to hear it from younger teammates. And when asked by management, he gave them his opinion. I mean, how are we ever going to know what happens inside the four walls, so to speak?
Right. I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think he went in there and said, hey, get rid of this guy or I'm going to retire. But he probably kept quiet when he could have said, hey, keep him too. You know, he probably just kind of put his head down and, you know,
My sense is that
chips
he's a
fall where
loyal
they may.
soldier. You know, he's been with the organization since he was 18, came here not speaking a word of English. You know, had that awful concussion head injury when he was about 23, and it looked like his career was over, and he's persevered, led him to a cup. You know, they're a consistent playoff team under his watch. So maybe he just wanted to do it his way, and this was the way he felt was best. I mean, you want to think the best of people anyway, so let's hope that's the case.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. On that note, we'll stop there. Always good talking with you, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, boys.